Now, this week, aid group MSF described Sudan as the site of the world's most significant humanitarian crisis. Both the Sudanese army and the RSF paramilitary have been accused of atrocities since they began battling last April. Tens of thousands have been killed, over 10 million forced from their homes by devastating conflict. On Tuesday, the US said that it had invited Sudan's combatants to ceasefire talks in Switzerland, due to be held in August. Now, they'll be the latest in a long line of international attempts at mediating peace. But the prospect of that seems no closer. I'm joined now by Omar Digna, a Sudanese analyst and author of the book Governance and Human Nature. Omar, first of all, Addis, Geneva, Cairo, Jeddah, the African Union, Egypt, Saudi Arabia. Today we're hearing Washington. We've seen this dizzying array of attempted peace talks. Why so many? And do you see any of them having an impact?
Okay. First, we need to describe the war in Sudan, because I don't think that the media describes it well as the way it is. I believe it's a colonial war against Sudan. It's waged by the UAE and its allies to take over Sudan for its resources and for political influence too. Just like what they did in Yemen and Libya, parts of Libya and all of Yemen. So, and they succeeded to promote the war as the two generals war, equality war, war against the former regime. And none of that is true. It's classic colonization tactics, is just have a different rhetoric for your real purposes for the war. So, so the war in Sudan is a war between the UAE and the people of Sudan, the way. So back to your question, if you think, if you're asking if the talks are going to be any good, no, unless the UAE gives up on its dreams of taking over Sudan. I don't think the talks will go anywhere, because
Omar, you're gonna have to you're gonna have to really break this down, because the combatants are the Sudanese army and we have the RSF paramilitary. Why are you focusing so much on the UAE when what we're looking at are fighters from two very domestic military forces?
No, they're not domestic. They sure have ties with regional powers, namely the UAE, at some point other countries too. So what happened in Yemen, for example, was not a war that concerned Sudan, but the RSF and the SAF took part in the war as part of their the direct ties between them and the United Arab Emirates. So no, it's not a war between two generals, because those two generals would have never had this war. Wasn't for the regional influence over them. So that's
and how does that affect the international and regional efforts, external diplomatic efforts, to try and find some kind of negotiated solution to Sudan's conflict?
Yeah, if they want to find a solution, they will have to go directly to the source of the problem, which is the hopes of the United Arab Emirates to take over Sudan for its seaport, just like they did in Bab el-Mandeb in Yemen. Now they're there, they control it, not the Yemeni government, and this is what they want to do in Port Sudan, and plus the other resources like gold. Of course, everybody knows that the Sudanese gold pours into the United Arab Emirates, and some go to other places like Russia maybe, but the main destination is the United Arab Emirates. So they are fighting this war for the resources and political influence. They want political influence in the Horn of Africa and on the Red Sea. So that's a real description of the war. So when you're talking about, of course, you have to have a different rhetoric for it. Because like we're fighting the former regime, we're fighting for democracy, whatever. So, but nobody's buying it. No, nobody's buying it. The people of Sudan demonstrated against the former regime, and they ousted it, and they hated it, and they did everything. But now in this war, most of the Sudanese people are with the Sudanese armed forces that is allegedly being supported by the former regime, because people now have to choose between falling into the hands of foreign powers or support the regime that they hated for so long. But at least that's a Sudanese regime. It's a national regime that we can tackle later on, but we cannot tackle colonization.
Omar Digna, thanks very much for giving his take on some of the behind-the-scenes drivers of Sudan's war that erupted last April between the RSF and the Sudanese army.